So I've put together a list of pros and cons for this BMW RT-P 1300 police motorcycle. This review isn't necessarily a comparison between BMW and the world or BMW versus Harley, but rather a comparison of the BMW RT-P 1300 versus the RT-P 1250 police bike. I did 25 years on the bar and shield for the city as a motor cop. The last 3 years I was working for the 1250, the RT-P 1250. So this is more of a comparison between the 1250 and the new 1300 and how it works for me on patrol. I've spent a couple of months on patrol with this bike now, and I've clocked around 5,000 miles in a variety of roles as a police motor. I've done enforcement, emergency response, and escorts with this platform, slow speed and high speed escorts. And I've been able to get a better feel for how well this bike works for me on patrol. You need to understand that there's a difference between a police work bike and a motorcycle that people would enjoy on the weekends or for their daily drive to and from their job. Our job is working from the bike, so what we might pick in a personal motorcycle might be totally different than what we would pick for a law enforcement motorcycle. As a police officer, I know that I'm not going to be relaxed, riding lazily around the city. I know at any moment's notice I can go from cruising to an all-out death race 500, from routine to life-threatening. It's simply the nature of law enforcement. And to try and pick a law enforcement motorcycle platform based on what you like for a Sunday cruise in the country back roads, just plain ignorant. You need something that works, something that does the mission, and it does it reliably and so well that you're focused on the mission and you forget the platform that's helping you complete the mission successfully. No one wants to get into a firefight while continually looking at their firearm trying to figure out what's going on, why it's jamming, why it won't cycle properly. The same is true with your police motorcycle. You want to be able to do your enforcement duties, your escort duties, and emergency response without giving a second thought to whether or not your motorcycle can handle the repeated 0 to 100, back to 0 drag races that you subject it to while you're enforcing interstate speed limits, or the long, slow grinds at slow speeds in your line of duty escorts, or emergency responses or pursuits that cause guardian angels to take up day drinking. Now, if this was a 100-mile review instead of my 5,000-mile review, my pros and cons list would be a whole lot different. At the 100-mile mark, my pro list had like maybe 3 things. The con list had about 20. Now, after I spent several miles and days on patrol with the RT-P 1300, that list is balanced out quite a bit. So a fair review of any police bike for police work can't happen with just one ride, or even just one shift on patrol. And unfortunately, most of the time when we look online, we find reviews of motorcycles or any other product for that matter that are based on just one ride or one day spent with that motorcycle. So here it is, my review of the 1300 RT-P as compared to the 1250 RT-P that I spent the last 3 years on, starting with the first pro, more horsepower. The 1300 power plant, it's got increased size, a newly redesigned two-cylinder boxer motor that results in 145 horsepower and 110 foot-pounds of torque over the previous 135 horsepower from the 1250. You combine that with a weight loss program that shaved 75 pounds from the motorcycle, and you've got a performance difference that you actually feel from the seat. This thing pulls from 3,500 all the way to its red line and makes you not miss the old electric glide that you used to struggle to catch soccer moms with. 0 to 100 times are improved, which makes the pursuit of speeders on your high-speed interstates quicker and safer, making it so that you catch them quicker and make the stop sooner. The 1300 motor is also my first complaint that I developed right away, and while I started to get used to it, I still don't love it. The first complaint about this motor is the usable low-end torque that I enjoyed on the 1250. It feels absent. I got to get the revs up to start out, and it likes to putter around in a lower gear that I'm used to running on the 1250. The second complaint for me, and the one that really sticks with me now, that engine noise. The valve train sounds like a diesel engine that's trying to tear itself apart. When I first started that motor, I immediately checked the oil level. I was convinced that the top end of the motor was running dry and slapping metal on metal. I just do not love how that engine sounds. Another huge pro is the improved handling. I mean, the 1250 was no slouch in the twisties, but the 1300 RT-P has really upped its game when it comes to mastering the mountain passes. Starting with the less is more ethos, the loss of 75 pounds provides not just improvements in acceleration, but also positively affects the braking and the handling characteristics. And even though this is still technically a big girl, she dances like a featherweight on the mountain roads, in part to the Ozempic treatment that BMW applied to the RT-P. Also helping with the handling is the new telelever front and paralever rear suspension and the dynamic chassis adaptation, which adjusts the suspension in real time. These tech changes improve the turn-in feel and gives you a sharper steering response that you actually feel in the twisties. While I'm just a simple motorman, and the BMW brochure used a lot of big words to describe the improvements in the suspension and the electronics, what I can tell you is that our mountain training roads that we use to sharpen our skills, we have definitely noticed how sharp this thing feels when it carves up the corners. All right, the pro in handling segues into a con that I currently have in low-speed handling, namely cone course work. While this may simply just be not enough seat time for me personally on the 1300, I noticed right away that the clutch has a different feel from the 1250, and the lack of that perceived low-end torque combines for an uneasy feeling in the cone course for me currently. I've gotten better with it, obviously, no problems, but it's just something you have to spend some seat time with. The next pro in my book is subjective, but so far while I've been on patrol, a lot of people have backed up my belief that this is just a better look on RT-P than its predecessor. I love the looks of it from nose to tail, the geometry of the saddlebags, the menacing headlamp, the cool looking rear tail lamp, and the paint matched rims. Speaking of saddlebags, there is a con in my book for the new saddlebags. The bags have a little less storage, which in our job is not cool, but just slightly less storage. Another storage fail in my book is that single center glove box on the tank. The previous models had two storage bins on top of the tank that had room for keys, your wallet, etc. And it even had a wireless charging pad, but that only worked if you had an iPhone 4. Anything bigger than an iPhone 4 just wouldn't fit. But we just filled them with crap that would normally take up space in our pockets. This new single center glove box is designed to hold and wirelessly charge a cell phone, but again, size is limited. My phone with a case just doesn't fit in there, but if I take the case out, the wireless charger just doesn't seem to work, or at least on my particular bike. And the box is too thin to fit my wallet, so I let it hold the key fob, which led to another problem or another gripe. So on the previous 1250 RT-P with the key fob, I usually kept the key fob in one of the two small glove boxes, and it ran that way all day long. When it was time to lock it up on a lunch break or court, I simply just took the key fob with me. BMW has decided to add more tech, and as an old person, I believe that tech is rarely a good thing. For the 1300, the key fob has what I would call a shake-awake feature. It's a clever anti-theft feature that keeps high-tech thieves from cloning your key fob. But if you're a motorman, you're running LiDAR, stationary LiDAR on the interstate, and you've got the key fob in the center glove box, that key fob falls asleep quickly. You see your speeder, you put the LiDAR up, and you go to start your bike, and you get the red flashing light telling you there's no key fob nearby. By the time you remember you have to physically shake the bike left and right to wake up the key fob, the violator has just sped onto the next jurisdiction. So just keep the key fob in your pocket and to keep it awake, and know that the center glove box has turned out to be nothing more than a place to store a couple of sticks of gum. One pro with the key fob, not all rain clouds here, I really love the remote locking saddlebags. That's a plus. One more pro I have to mention is the turn signals finally self-cancel. Yeah, I don't know what it was with my 2023 RT-P, but the 1250, every other motorcycle built in this century, the turn signals self-cancel no problem. The 1250, my 2023 model, did not self-cancel. The 1300, the turn signal self-cancels, so hallelujah. If I did this review after one day on patrol, I would have added the soft feeling brakes to my list of gripes. I noticed that instead of the Brembo brakes they had on the 1250s, the 1300s are running with BMW branded brakes. They have a noticeably softer feel on initial application, but when you really grab onto them, they bite like a German Shepherd after a crack addict. As it turns out, I learned that BMW may have wanted their own brakes to more seamlessly be integrated with their electronic braking package, and the initial soft feel is just something you soon forget about as you really get to know its capabilities, especially if you practice your brake and escape exercises regularly like you're supposed to. While the new windscreen doesn't block as much wind as the 1250's windscreen did, the little pull-up wings, which I initially thought were gimmicks, actually do help on cooler mornings to create a bubble for the rider to stay a little bit warmer. but the increase in wind noise in the cockpit is definitely noticeable. Combine the increase in wind noise with the ratty sounding engine, and the nice quiet 1250 cockpit that I got used to working from has sadly gone away. Overall, I have to sum up the new 1300 RT-P for police use like this. If you want a relaxed, comfortable machine to cruise on, check out the new Goldwing, my personal favorite. But if you need a solid, capable performer that works as hard as a rookie who just got partnered with a chief for a PR ride, the RT-P 1300 is no day shift slug. Do I love it? No. Does it do the job? Absolutely. Will you love it? I think you will. In the meantime, ride safe and train often.